The Shepnaz podcast begins now.
You are listening to the Shepnaz podcast, a podcast by Shepherd Church. Everything we do here is to connect our community in a meaningful relationship with Christ, and we're expecting great things. My name's Joey, and I'm your host, and today I'm joined by Bev Serrott, a member here at Shepherd, and she has an incredible story of faithfulness throughout the generations that I think you're going to want to hear. So stay tuned. Well, Beverly, thanks for being here today. How are you doing today?
I'm doing just fine.
Good. Well, we are excited to have you be a part of our podcast. I think what we're most excited about is just to hear your story. We want people to hear all the good, well, maybe not all the good things God has done, because that would be a longer podcast, but some of the things that He's done in your life and through you. Let's talk a little bit, if you would, about you really got started in mission work when it came to serving. Like, let's talk a little bit about your mission work and kind of how that got started. Like, how did God call you into missions?
Well, we were pastoring in Cincinnati.
Okay.
And we had a missionary come and visit us, and we stayed up till 2 o'clock in the morning talking to him. And that just, we just couldn't get away from it. So we were under Church of Christ Christian Union at that time, and we went to their mission board and applied, and they accepted us and sent us not to Dominica where we wanted to go, but to the Texas-Mexican border.
Okay.
And we were there for 2 years and teaching in their school. And it was different. We had to learn Spanish, even though my husband would sometimes hide his Spanish book. We taught in the school, and it was a great experience.
Wow. And from Texas, you went...
From there, they finally sent us to Dominica, and by that time we had 2 little boys, and we had no idea really where we were going or what we were going to do, but we knew that God was leading us. My husband's family was not too happy that we were taking 2 little ones to an island like that.
Yeah.
But we knew God was calling us, and we were real excited.
Wonderful. What are some of the things that you were able to be a part of there?
Well, it was Dominica is probably one of the most undeveloped islands in the West Indies. It's curved around it's between Martinique and Guadeloupe. And the people there are very friendly. It's an English-speaking, although they have their own dialect. But we lived in the city of Roseau to start with. We were in charge of the mission outreach, the preaching in churches and so forth. I think they probably had about 10 churches and outreaches at that time. There were 2 or 3 other mission groups there, but when you're in a field like that, you're just one big family. We were just all worked together, and it was great.
That's wonderful.
We had some good experiences. It was a little difficult getting adjusted at first. My 3-year-old at that time had a habit of holding his breath until he'd pass out. And any doctor will laugh at you for that, but not to a mother.
No, of course not.
And I remember one time he did that, and they were playing downstairs, and I went up, and I got down in my bed, and I said, Lord, if you want me to stay here, you've got to cure him of that. Don't ever let him do it again. And he never did.
Well, there you go.
And we had some great experiences there. My husband started a Bible school. We moved to the country. We built our own house, and Dominica is all mountains. It's I think the longest stretch of road is about 1 mile, and we were up on the mountain. We had no running water except for barrels under the corners of the church and the house. Then we piped the water into the house, and so we had to build our own cement blocks to build the house, and the national boys would run up and down the hill with their wheelbarrows and buckets of water and keep us in water. We built our own house. I had a tin roof, and it was a nice house. And we lived there for several years. My husband planted quite a few bananas to support a Bible school that they started. We started different preaching points. It was a great experience. I remember one time we had a missionary. Well, he wasn't a missionary then. He was a preacher from the headquarters in Circleville. Came down to visit our field, and he was a very, very nice person. But we had there were no really wild animals in Dominica. There were just it was a very rainy, but beautiful country. But there were a lot of snakes, no poisonous snakes, and I hate snakes. But the big ones had a habit of curling up on the road, and the warm sun, and on the warm roads, and the only way you could kill them was to run over them. So one day we were going down the road. We had this man from Circleville riding with us, and it was at night, and we had a Jeep. Now, Jeeps are different from cars. They have holes in the bottom of the vehicle where the transmission and all that stuff comes up. And we were riding down the road, and one of the preachers had taken his tie and put it over the sun visor and inside the car. And as we were riding down the road in the dark road and with our headlights on, this tie came slithering down on top of this man from Circleville. Well, I think they probably heard him yell clear back at Circleville.
Oh, yeah.
He jumped, almost hit his head on top of the Jeep. But, of course, it wasn't a snake. He thought it was. But
That's good.
We finally made it where we were going. And we had a lot of fun experiences. The people were very friendly. I never had to lock my doors. My kids were safe. They often stayed with the Nationals. We had one lady that would take my little one. She'd take him home with her and keep him overnight and bring him back the next day or so. They were just wonderful people, and it just had a lot of great experiences there.
Are there any stories of kind of God breaking through in a special way while you were there?
It was kind of hard. It was a Catholic island, and
Okay.
the priests had a strong hold over the people. And quite often they were persecuted when they became Christians. But I don't, we were never in danger. I don't believe that we ever had anything like that. We sometimes had some problems, and especially around what would be the equivalent to Mardi Gras here. And we'd just go to the country then and stay. But they were friendly people. They were not a dangerous people.
Yeah.
They made their living out of the garden. And we had some great revival services. And God answered prayer in a lot of different ways. I can't remember any. I just know we had some great. I know the first missionary that went there prayed about 10 years before she had a person that got saved.
Wow.
We had good children's ministry. We had a lot of good revival services. We built churches.
Wonderful.
Just had a great time.
Good. So how long were you in Dominica?
We were there about 7 years.
Okay. And then from there, where did God take you?
Well, my husband got sick.
Okay.
And when he got sick, we had some good doctors there. And I remember my little girl was born there, and she was tongue-tied. And I remember sitting her on my lap in the doctor's office, and he put his finger under her tongue, and it was the longest time. They took a pair of scissors and clipped it, and that was it.
Yep.
But and she never had any problems here, whereas I had a grandchild here that had the same problem, and it was a big problem. So God took care of us. I did get sick there, and but God took care of us, and always healed us and helped us, and it just answered prayer in so many, many wonderful ways. I just can't remember them all, but I just remember we had a telephone. It was a nice little box on the wall. We made communication by shortwave radio, and telephone didn't work. But and we walked up and down the mountains. I remember one night we had to leave. I can't remember what the occasion was, but I know we had to leave. And our missionary was with us, and I remember going down the side of the mountain, and I had hold of my husband's belt, and he had hold of William's belt, and he took us down. He knew every step of the way. And whenever you drove, the roads were on the side of the mountain, because that's all it was mountains. And it was a one-way, and when you passed another car, you pulled over to the side and waited until they passed or you passed, and then you went on your way. And my kids got used to sleeping in the back of the Jeep, and their heads would bump up and down. They didn't care. They were fine. I never had a problem with a child until I got back to the States. God took care of us in such a marvelous way.
And you came back to the States, and you moved to...
We came back, and we went to... We had come back 1 year on furlough, but when we went back again, and my husband got very, very sick. So we had to leave and come back. We went to Miami, Florida, okay. Fort Lauderdale. Actually, we went to Fort Lauderdale first. And I got a teaching job there in the public school. And he recuperated and was able to get into evangelism. And he was in evangelism for about 10 years. We lived there. And then my children were getting older, and I felt like he needed to be at home. So we took a church in Miami, in Coral Village Church. And they had never had a pastor that stayed there more than 2 years. We stayed 21 years.
Well, there you go. And that's when you kind of were introduced to the Church of the Nazarene.
It was under the from the time we went to Miami, we joined the Nazarene Church there. There were no Christian Union churches there, so we joined the Nazarene Church. And
you never looked back.
Never looked back. He became ordained in the Nazarene Church and was under evangelism in the Nazarene Church, and everything was from then on. And the Coral Village was a Nazarene church. And I taught in our Nazarene school in Princeton, about a half hour away. And taught there for 21 years. And that's where I met Terry 1 year.
A brand new event is coming to Shepherd Church this spring. Springfest happens on April 7th, and your family is sure to love it. There'll be tons of activities, from inflatable obstacle courses to a blow party, from a petting zoo to axe throwing. There's even going to be prizes for winners of games and tournaments that we have, like cornhole and can jam. Seriously, we can't wait to see you here for Springfest. You can learn more by visiting shepnaz.org/springfest. Make plans to come and spend the evening on April 7th with us at Shepherd Church. We want to get to know you. Each month, we've got an opportunity. If you're new around here, you're invited to Pizza with the Pastors at Massey's Pizza in Gahanna. The next one happens Monday, March 20th. You can RSVP by emailing Pastor Rob at rpaul@shepnaz.org. We're looking forward to seeing you and your family there.
My husband took a lot of mission trips in there. His missions was always his desire, his dream. So he took a lot of mission trips back and forth, and we had a lot of missionaries. Being in Miami, we were right on the edge of where the planes came in from foreign fields, and we had a lot of missionaries stayed with us at that time. And it was really a great ministry. We really enjoyed it. And one time we had a drug raid in our church grounds, and I came home from school, and all these policemen were all over the grounds, and they finally caught him. But Miami's a pretty heavy drug place. But we had a great ministry there, and I thank the Lord for all of that. and a lot of good memories. And then he didn't get any better, so we finally decided that we knew that he was really getting worse, so he wanted to come back home, which was Columbus.
Okay.
So we moved to Columbus, and we came to Columbus, and my daughter had come to Columbus several years earlier, or a few years earlier, and married up here. And she had wanted to find a Nazarene church. So she called and looked in the phone book and found 2 or 3 churches and called them. And she called one, Shepherd, and Deb Zernis answered and said, "I will wait for you if you will come." She said, "I'll be at the door and I'll meet you."
Wow.
Well, that Sunday, Cheryl decided she would go. And by the time we had, I think, four children. And she was kind of late. And she was a half hour late. And don't you know, Deb was waiting for her.
Of course
and that
she
made
was.
such an impression on her that she's been here ever since.
Yep.
And I just thought how important it is that we treat our newcomers in church like that. And so we've been here ever since, and our whole family's here now.
Yeah.
And when I came, of course, I met Terry, and I had no idea he was at Shepherd. That was God leading.
Mm-hmm.
My husband and I came a few years after Cheryl. We moved up here and moved into Gahanna. And Terry and I were talking, and he expressed his desire to start a church, or a school.
Yeah.
And I said, well, I'll be glad to. By that time, I was retired, so I didn't care whether they had retirement benefits or not. And we started, and I had 3 children.
Mm-hmm.
And then my first class. Yeah. And Penny Bonham was my room mother. And we ran it just like a regular school. He bought all the curriculum, and we had our desks, and we had a great time. And the next year, they started adding on.
Well, yeah, so we were talking before that we have this, really this school that started in what we now have. If you're around, it's affectionately known as the couch room because it's a room for teenagers, and there's 7 couches and none of them match currently. We're working on that. But
they don't care.
From that little room to what has just blossomed into this incredible school from very humble beginnings. This year we'll be adding 7th grade, and we'll likely have over 220 students that are a part of it. And just really from the sacrifice of you and Terry and just laying the groundwork and doing some of the hard things, because I'd imagine it wasn't the easiest thing that you had done.
No, but it was fun. God was with us, and we really enjoyed it. It was just a real good experience.
Yeah. And so you said your whole family's here.
Now they are, my grandchildren.
Yeah.
And active in the church.
Mm-hmm. And those grandchildren are growing up.
Now my great-grandchildren are here.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Yeah, you are, you are loved. We're so thankful for you, and it's great to hear. I'm sure we could do a couple more of these and talk a little bit more about some of the more specific things that happened on the mission field or in Miami, but we're so thankful. Was there anything that you wished people knew, maybe that you've been a part of that you'd share with us?
Just that God always answers prayer no matter what happens, no matter how things look. He's there, and God never makes mistakes. I've learned that over the years, and that's kind of been my life. I don't know what you'd call it, but whenever I wonder about something, I just think, no, Lord, you don't make mistakes. It has to be in your will. And it always is. He always doesn't always show me the answer, but he always shows me the way. And he always has. I just thank you for that.
Well, Beverly, thanks for coming in today. We're really thankful for I have enjoyed this conversation.
Well, thank you.
Yeah. All right.
I've enjoyed it also.
Good.
Didn't think I would because I'm not a public speaker.
No worries. Well, people are gonna love this. I'm glad that they get to hear your story and hear what God's doing, and hopefully maybe even this would propel somebody to chase something like a missions for and pursue what it looks like to serve God in that way. Well, that's going to do it for our episode today. My thanks to Bev for coming in and talking with us, and hopefully you got some incredible stuff out of that. As always, you can get a hold of us at podcast@shepnaz.org. You can find out what's happening at Shepherd through our website, shepnaz.org, of course on our social media pages, and through our app. For Bev, my name's Joey. Thanks for listening.
This podcast is a production of the Shepherd Church of the Nazarene, Gahanna, Ohio. Email to podcast@shepnaz.org and let us know what you think.